Hello YouTube, this is Brendan. It's going to be a video providing some additional matrix multiplication examples. So what we have here are three matrices. Matrix A, the first matrix, we're going to describe this as being a 3 by 2 matrix. And it is 3 by 2 because there are 1, 2, 3 rows. And 2 because there are 2 columns. I'll go ahead and put this 2 in red so you can see why. So 2 columns, 3 rows, a 3 by 2 matrix. The second matrix right here, which I'm going to call matrix B, I'm going to call this first one A, this last one C. The second matrix is a 2 by 3 matrix because there are 2 rows and 3 columns. And finally we have matrix C, which is a matrix with 2 rows and 2 columns. Now, in order to do matrix multiplication, as we discussed in the last video, the columns of the first matrix must match the rows of the second matrix. So let's try to see all the different combinations of multiplying A, B, and C that we can do, figure out which ones are relevant, which ones aren't, and move on from there. So first, we're just going to say, can you multiply them, or is it impossible? So first, matrix A times matrix B. Well, matrix A is a 3 by 2 matrix. Matrix B is a 2 by 3 matrix. So you definitely can multiply these because the columns of the first match the rows of the second. And the output for this would be a 3 by 3 matrix. So I'm just going to set this up right here. I'm going to leave a lot of room because that's a big matrix. But we could, in fact, multiply A by B. We'll come back and do it in a little bit. Now, what about B by A? Could we do that? Matrix B is 2 by 3. Matrix A is 3 by 2. So because these two 3's match up with each other, we can, in fact, multiply matrix B by matrix A. And the output for this one would be a 2 by 2. Again, I'm going to leave some room here. Might not need this much, but better to be safe than sorry. And then I'm just going to pick one example that we can't do, and that would be matrix B times matrix C. Now, matrix B is 2 by 3, whereas matrix C is 2 by 2. These two values do not match. So we cannot multiply B times C, and we say that there is no solution. Okay, so now that we've established how you know when you can or can't multiply two matrices, let's go ahead and do the matrix multiplication. For matrix A times matrix B, what we want to do is we want to take the first row and multiply it by the first column. Now, when we multiply, we take a component from each, matrix A and matrix B, we multiply them, and then we add that to the product of the next two multiplied by each other. Probably best to just see that through an example. So what I'm going to do is I move from left to right as I go across a row, top to bottom as I go down a column. So to multiply row 1 by column 1, I would multiply 1 times 4. And I would also multiply 7 times 1. And that's it. That's all I can do. I now have my result for row 1, column 1. Now let's say I wanted to get row 2, column 1. Well, I'm going to multiply the rows of A times the column of B. And when I do that, 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 1 times 3 as 3. And you just end up adding those. Next, we want to get row 3, column 1. I would do 4 times 4 plus 5 times 1. Make sense? Now, for the future ones, I'm not going to write out every step. I am just going to show you the final result. But let's go ahead and talk it out. So to get row 1, column 2, I'm going to multiply row 1 by column 2. When I do that, 1 times 2 is 2, 7 times 5 is 35. So I add those together, and that's going to give me 37 right here. Row 2, column 2. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 times 5 is 15. It's going to give us 19 when we add those together. Row 3, column 2. 4 times 2 plus 5 times 5 is going to give me 33. Finally, I'm going to do row 1, row 2, row 3 times column 3. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 7 times 7, 49, that adds to 52. You can see how, as you get used to the normal routine of this, you can really just start doing it in your head. It's usually they don't go super complex with the numbers, especially if you're in a high school math course. Perhaps if you're taking linear algebra, it'll get a lot more complicated than this. 2 times 3 plus 3 times 7, it's going to be 6 plus 21 is 27. 4 times 3, 5 times 7, that's going to add to 47. And we can see that that's how we would get A times B. Now let's say we wanted to do B times A. Again, I'm going to take, now I'm going to do the rows of B times the columns of A. So what I would have first is 4 times 1. So let me, rows of B times columns of A. It's always the rows of your first times the columns of your second. So since here we were doing A times B, we did the rows of A times the columns of B. Here, since it's B times A, we're going across rows of B and simultaneously multiplying across the columns of A. So for B times A, it would be 4 times 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times 4. So that's 4 plus 4 plus 12 is going to give us 20. And that will be row 1, column 1. To get row 1, column 2, we would do row 1 of B times column 2 of A. 4 times 7 is 28. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. If we add those up, we're going to end up with 49. And since that was row 1, column 2, that's going to go here. Next, I'm going to multiply row 2 of B times column 1 of A. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 2 is 10. 7 times 4 is 28. Added together, that's going to give us 39. And finally, if I haven't made enough of a mess up here, I'm going to do row 2 of B times column 2 of A. 1 times 7 is 7. 5 times 3, 15, so that's 22 when added together, and then 7 times 5 is 35, plus 22 is 57. And then last, we have my favorite case, B times C, which is no solution. You can't multiply it. Don't even try. It's not going to work. That's it. That's how you multiply matrices. A couple of additional examples. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching.